Pastor Tim, love it. Well, welcome everyone. Here we go. We have the engaging conversationist here today. That is a conversation with an atheist, we call it. But Innocent is agnostic, he said he is. So, I don't know what he plans for me today. So I will just hand over the driver's seat to him. And he knows what the schedule and the agenda is going to be like. And so here we go, Innocent. And welcome. Take charge.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I wanted us to, instead of going directly to ask questions, there are a long list of questions. Many people left. They left comments, funny comments sometimes. I don't know if you permit me, I'd like to read just a few before we continue.
Yes, please, please.
Okay. The first one that is here, they say Innocent will become a very good pastor via Jesus' teaching. I read that one, I couldn't. He said, GSA, please, can you show us your library, if you don't mind? With somebody again. Take it, Zik. Somehow.
I don't get that.
The name is somebody, Zeket Kiss. Okay, let me just keep that. Okay, Innocent Magaji, you say you are not innocent. If you permit me, I'm sorry to say, as from today, I call you knowledge.
They like your knowledge, eh?
So in response, somebody replied to the person that is asking you to show them the library that please don't ask of DSS library. Even man has written over 400 books. You can only imagine how many books he has read.
I don't know myself. I personally think that one thing I tell my people, my disciples, people who want to know about me is that I don't think that I know much. I think I don't know much. And I think I've not read much. I think I'm limited. I'm very much limited, and I know very, very little of what is there to know. And but the thing I would say is good about me is that despite my limitation, I try to make the best use of the little that I know.
So, yes, for people who hear it, I was actually wondering, because throughout the entire interview, you impress me all the time. It's actually impressive to see that you know practically almost everything, almost practically. There's nothing that I mention or try to call that you don't know about. So then I say, okay, information, knowledge is wealth. It's good to accumulate knowledge in your mind, because that's what makes increase the value of human. That's to my understanding. Because the more knowledge you acquire, the more, because the reason why you're being generated today is because of the knowledge you have in mind. Without that knowledge, I don't know how people see you today. Because when we come listening to you, you see that outpouring of knowledge that is coming, and some people even left similar comments. Somebody said, wow, the DSA is so widely read. It's mind-boggling. That's what he said. We were all impressed. So somebody left a very heartwarming message. His name is Ernest Ebon. He insisted that the interview continue. So he sent me some message. He said, thank you so much, Mr. Innocent, for taking the time to ask DSA those questions. Some of them have been asked by Europeans. We could not answer. So I converted them to audio and listening over and over again, and even teaching my children. So just keep doing it. They are great blessings. I will join you tomorrow lessons. So he went on and said, those are questions every Christian needs to know. I called him. Okay, so he said, yes, I had to, because I live in Germany, and as a Christian, there are many challenging questions I receive from Germans. And through your broadcast, I'm getting a wealth of broader understanding on how to deal with them. So many encouraging messages like that people send, and some critics too. So, but it's good that people are learning from this. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you would like to comment. Which to you, what aspect? Before we go further into the questions, I would like to understand what aspect of this interview, the three aspects that we treated, that is more remarkable to you.
I think what I most admire about the three parts that we have done so far will probably be the first one. And the reason is because the first one to me is more about God, making sense of God. And for me, that is my life. And that is the thing I live for. And the person I live for, the essence of me. So part one for me is very, very important, very, very significant. I can talk about that forever. Now, part two is more of what I think. Part two was about the culture, right? About Africa, right?
Yes.
Okay. Part two, the culture, Africa, tradition. Part two, I would think, is something that I've already settled as far as I'm concerned, because I already have my plans in place on how to bring changes and how to change the status quo in Africa in regards to that part two. And that's why I wrote this book, How Africans Brought Civilization to Europe. So, and then but that is just, that's just a research and introductory to what is to come, but that is in the past. I have a plan of how to make the African culture and the African philosophy, medicine and pharmaceuticals and poems and poetry and art, how to make it glorious in the future, and how to, how to cut a niche or how to get a niche for the African church. I mean, for the African future, African culture in the future. So for me, that is already settled. I don't even need to. I just want to do it. I don't, because when I talk about things, people might say, "Oh, you are talking about it. You are not doing it, sure or something." So I don't want to talk about. I'm not interested in talking that. I will just do it. So that what that one is about that. And then the last part we did was about what?
The economic advantage.
The economic advantage of faith and tourism. I think it was tourism you call it.
Religious tourism.
Okay, yeah, religious tourism. Yes. That for me is also, less important than the topic of God, because the religious tourism and whatever is bringing people to Africa right now, for me, this is not the best representation of God and of Christianity. So I'm not proud of the Christianity that is now being practiced in Nigeria and in Africa. So I'm not very impressed by what's going on with Nigerian Christianity. I'm one of their greatest critics, and I'm eager to demonstrate and show the real Christianity to my people when I get back to Nigeria.
Okay.
And of course, I am impressed by the fact that you came up with this program and with this idea. But as concerning me, since I know, I have a whole book written actually for atheists. Yeah, it's a big book, not this one, but it's a big book. But it's in Russian language. So it's 300-page book that I wrote for atheists, and I just hope I'm going to give it to somebody to translate. I think I don't know if we did that, but we are going to translate it, and I want to discuss on that because you have to see my own point of view. I call it 10 questions to Stephen Hawkins. I call it 10 questions to Stephen Hawkins or Richard Dawkins and Stephen Hawkins. Yeah, two of them.
He's one of the famous atheists.
Yes. I am now coming with my questions to them. 10 questions to them. So you are throwing me questions now, but I'm throwing questions to the most famous atheists in the world.
Yes. I don't know if taking them all. I've listened to most of them. They don't make very much sense to me because, like from the position I took personally, and you know, day by day, my respect for you grows because I listened to the young man some 3 years ago that had an interview with you. I've forgotten his name, but
Livio from Holland.
Exactly. So I listened to, you know, this thing, many people underestimate it. It's what I call bigotry because you must admit that Christianity is not entirely as bad as people think it. So as most atheists like to describe it, of course you don't agree with the concept in the Bible, but yes, can you admit that it's being used for positive purpose in that instant where Livio came and gave good testimony? You can see that his life is entirely transformed.
Yeah.
Mike loud? Am I loud enough?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's very loud, but I think it's a bit too loud, maybe.
Okay, too loud.
Oh, no, it's okay. Just go ahead.
Okay. So Livio came in with this testimony that he gave. So I think people should take their
That
time.
noise came back. That noise that we left before came back. So try to plug it in and see if it will go now. Okay, try to talk. Maybe it will be louder now.
Okay, it's okay now?
Yeah, it's better a little bit.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So one of the questions that somebody left was, at the process, the last interview that we had, there were personal questions that were being asked. What would you do if you discover that Christianity was just a fallacy and it's all fabricated? You gave a very strong answer to that. So then you gave another example of the book you wrote about how Africa brought civilization to Europe. So the person was accusing you of revisionism, that you're trying to reinvent Christianity. You're giving a total different narrative about Christianity that seems cool, but the person is not saying it's a bad thing actually, but the version you are proposing is the coolest version of Christianity. So, and then the person also talked about the book you wrote, because there was a question that I asked about if Dubai was developed by Christianity, and if can we have development without the aid of Christianity. You answered directly and you said no, that most development can be credited to Christianity, and that our modern day civilization is entirely credited to Christianity. So, and then what I learned in the past interview that you have had with people is to follow you patiently. That's what I've learned. So while you were saying that, I didn't have any trouble in my mind. I was just following you because I know where you will land. I've seen you in so many instances. For instance, the interview you had with Dr. Arons about the Fulani in Nigeria. I noticed from the beginning of the interview, it was a little bit, it wasn't going. It seems as if you two didn't understand each other. He was going another direction, you were going another direction. He was saying something, he was expecting sympathy from you, but you were trying to make a point. So for the beginning of the whole thing, I was a little bit, okay, I said, let me just listen first. And I saw that people were leaving negative, so many negative comments. And then at the end of the interview, you started explaining yourself, you started explaining your logic, and even Dr. Arons himself started reasoning with you. He was nodding his head because he saw that what he was saying was cool. So I said, okay, this time around, no struggle, innocent, just follow what he's going to say. So you explain your standpoint, you try to explain why you think Christianity is important and why we need to credit this civilization to Europe. But what was missing in the explanation you gave was the parallel of development with Christianity. You argue on the moral standpoint. You explain that Christianity came and did away with slavery, and also did away with inequality, and it also took away that idea that women are less human, as inferior to men. So you adopted the moral standpoint of Christianity, and I also give an example of China, how their struggle, what led to their liberation and what they did. So you argued that they were actually killing and sacrificing. If the husband died, they take the wife along and sometimes bury them together. In most cases of some of their large emperors, they bury the entire family and even their horses and everything, they bury them all together. So you argued based on moral standpoint and you made your position clear. So I would like you to comment on this concretely. What is the parallel now that we see, apart from the moral standpoint of Christianity? What is the parallel of Christianity? Because we also look into the past and we saw that, yes, there are great civilizations, a lot of them that we achieved through human callousness, through bloodshed, through wars, and so many atrocities committed by humans. But yet, these are civilizations, we are mighty. So now the point is, it doesn't matter how the development was achieved, but the development was there. It shows that the human of that epoch, we are motivated by something. They wanted to have a utopian society. They wanted a standard that they can be able to enjoy. They wanted beautiful edifices. They wanted roads that are tiles. They wanted great castles. And they did everything they could to build them. So development independently without morality is what we see in the past civilization. So the point here is, how can you explain concretely, how can we develop? What is the parallel between Christianity and development? When I say development, infrastructural development, not on the moral standpoint. It doesn't matter whether slavery or sacrifice or demeaning women, no, but with development, countries with development. So, because I know many people who watched it might be asking these questions, just like this other person that I was listening to, they try to say, okay, yes, DSC argued that how African brought civilization to Europe, and now he's saying it's Christianity that brought civilization. So which is the position? So please, if you comment on that.
Okay. Yes. There were a lot of inventions that were done and were made in the old world before Christianity. So we credit things like alphabet maybe to China. Some people say it's to India. We credit writing to Egypt. We credit mathematics to Asia. We credit a lot of archaeology. We credit all kind of inventions and all kind of discoveries, ancient discovery to different civilizations. Egypt, which used to be totally African, which is still African, but it used to be black African. And also, you will know of the pyramids, we know of the Great Walls and the great discoveries and inventions in Nubia. That is the present-day Sudan, and we know of different great discoveries that were, that are credited to black people. Black people, as I've written in my book, were everywhere. But the difference between all those civilizations and discoveries is that they were not. How do I say? They were not popularized, or is it popularized the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a word. They were not like put into mass production. They were not. These things were only limited things. Okay, for example, let's talk about Nigeria. For example, let's take the Yoruba Kingdom with the bronze and the artifacts they were doing. Those things were limited to families. They were not industrialized and they were not even commercialized. They were just some families that were gifted in it, and these abilities were passed down family lineage. And so it was not an industrialization or civilization thing. It was an invention, but it remained local where it is. Or let's talk about, for example, the kingdom of Benin Kingdom. One of the great cities, one of the great, I mean, it used to be a greater city and look more organized than a lot of European cities. When Europeans came there, they were surprised that cities in Benin City was well planned, like better planned than London, I mean, than any European cities. So, but it was just one. It was not commercialized. It was not like industrialized. It was just like mono kind of thing. It was not. It's not a. If you call it civilization, then it's just a local civilization. Like black people invented, you know, water system, for example, and sewage, but it was still for just the elite in Spain. You know, they brought it to Spain and they did it, but it was just for families, for kings, or for the deities. It was not not a mass popular kind of thing. All these civilizations and all these discoveries that we have now, that even the ones that came from ancient times, it was only when they were taken a hold of by these last civilization, Christian civilization, that they all became mass discoveries and mass revolutionized momentum was given to them, that, you know, is replicated and multiplied and duplicated and is put into a machinery kind of, you know, reproduction. But even those civilizations, like the Persian civilization, for example, also a lot of things they discovered there, like what do you call that country near Mali in Africa? Near Mali, where they have Burukutu. Burukutu was in Mali, right? Not Central Africa, but it's a country very near Morocco, between Morocco and Mali. What do you call that country?
Niger?
No. Morocco. Between Morocco, you know, around all that area, there were a lot of discoveries that were there. Morocco, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria.
Timbuktu.
Timbuktu was in Mali. Yeah, but is that the name of the republic now?
Bamako.
No, Bamako is the capital of Mali. No, that's what I'm referring to, Timbuktu. But Timbuktu is the university, where the university was, right? The first university. But so all these things were there, but they were all localized. So, but when there is a country there. Is that Timbuktu is just the university city, but there is this country. What do you call it? Just show me from Africa. Yeah. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So what happened is that all these people, all these discoveries were there, but local. But when Protestants began to teach that we are made in God's image and that God is the creator, and because God is the creator, that we are all supposed to be co-creators with God. In most religions all over the world, even Mauritania, I think the thing I'm looking for is probably Mauritania, right? Yes. Is there a country like Mauritania?
Yes.
Yeah, Mauritania is what I'm looking for. Mauritania, okay. But even though Christianity came from the Jewish religion, even in Jewish religion itself, and any other religion in the whole world, it was almost like a crime to liken yourself to God. Humans, no one single religion did this before, only Christianity. So it is the first time, and this is what gave birth to an explosion of creativity and industrialization and multiplication of stuff. And I will explain to you. What happened was that in all religions of the world, go to any culture, subjects or indigent citizens were always treated and always look at themselves as subjects to their gods or properties of their god, of their gods. That means that their god could demand for their lives, and they will sacrifice people, children, or themselves, or their other countrymen to their gods. This is what was happening all over the world. Now, but when Christianity came, Jesus began to say, I and my Father are one. Ah, what do you mean? Even the Jewish people were saying it was blasphemy. But what Jesus was trying to introduce, and what Christianity introduced, is that it's not just written, even though this has been written before in the Jewish religion, that we were made in the image of God. But even Jewish people couldn't pronounce the name of God. Talk less of thinking we were equal, we are in the image of God, or we could be likened to God. It was like a big blasphemy. So, but when the Christian Protestants began to teach this, that God is a creator, and we too can become co-creators with him. We are like him. Whatever you see God do, you can do. What? But that brought all these Protestants began to teach this all over Europe. That if you are made in the image of God, if you are a believer in God, you are a creator like God. And you are supposed to bring the kingdom of God to the earth. And you are supposed to duplicate heaven here. Just like he created the universe, he created the earth, we are supposed to be like him. We are like him. We are supposed to carry his image. We are supposed to create just like he's creating. And people began to put their creativity into place. And that led to enlightenment. And that, the freedom led to Renaissance, and the explosion. The philosophers began to be free, because before the Protestants, the Catholic Church would not allow the philosophers to think, or anybody to even think outside of the religion, the Catholic religion. But thanks to the Reformation, the freedom came for people to use their mind. So we have the explosion of philosophers, Enlightenment age, and people began to use. But most of these people came from the church. Can you believe it, innocent, that in 17th century, 18th century, after the Industrial Revolution, and 19th century, it used to be 95% of all Industrial Revolution, 95% of all the big innovation they were all coming from Christian cultures or Christian nations. Now it has been reduced. Now it is still much. Now it is 75% of all the inventions we now have. They are connected. They are either coming from countries in Europe, or they are coming from countries in America, or they are coming from countries where Christian nations are, like Australia or other places, and Jews, a lot of Jews, but those Jews were living mostly in Europe. So all these people, all these in 75% up to now. Now some of them might be atheists now, but they are coming. All of them are still coming from these Christian nations that was created through Protestant teachings, and the ability of man to become like God, to create like God. And that's what I was just trying to say when I talk about that, the fact that our civilization today is credited to. For example, let's talk about roads. Okay, we had roads before Christianity because of the Roman Empire. We had, but road will be, for example, something like a luxury. It's just like one main road, luxury. But to build a whole city and make, what we are seeing now is all after Protestant Reformation, and it's all after Industrial Revolution that is coming from the European continent. And then when we talk about technological breakthrough, and that everybody could actually improve their lifestyle, but because before the Protestant Revolution, only 1% of the world was living okay. But right now, is 40% of the world living, at least, but civilization is in 60% of the world. So it's much more larger because of these, activities of the Christian nations and the missionaries. Now, they will say the missionaries did a lot of evil, but they also did a lot of good because they brought mass, because education, let's take education for example. You know, education used before Christianity, education used to be looked at as something that is for a certain limited group of people. But the Christianity came and said that no, God is light. And he said, we are the light of God. Everybody must get that light. So, and that even the printing press, you know, and was invented just to be able to print the good news. And then it became the basis of industrial revolution itself. So, so a lot of things that I'm talking about mass. You know, I'm not talking about individual things that were created or that the civilization brought before, but I'm talking like the mass that will make the large population of the old earth to benefit the good, the general good that make not just the, for example, in Europe before they used to have just the aristocrats, or they used to have, you know, the elite, the feudals, or they used to have, you know, just the bourgeoisie. You know, people like that. But the Christian teaching, you know, spread this good. That everybody has dignity. Everybody has to be equal. And, you know, before God. Not just the elite, not just the monarchs and the, you know, very, very few privileged people. That's what I basically was referring to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
The popularization, you know,
expansive.
Expansive
and okay. So since we're talking about civilization and invention, then here's another interesting question. You won't believe that you have interesting people watching this. This is a very funny question. They say if Jesus or Muhammad was born in this epoch, so imagine them with Facebook account or large followers with a hashtag turning water into wine. You say, oh, Jesus or Muhammad using iPhone 7 and flying Lufthansa or Air Maroc instead of camels and donkeys, if they were to be born in this epoch, what do you think? What would they say? Using iPhone 7, what difference will it make?
I think definitely if Jesus were to be born in this epoch, he will definitely use the resources available at his disposal. And definitely Jesus will use anything that will help him to pass across his message. Jesus was very inventive when he was on the earth. For example, when Jesus would go to any city, before he would go, he would send some people ahead of him. That was a know-how that time. You know, that is publicity. That is marketing. And in some other instances, whenever he comes to a place, he would, even though he didn't want them to glorify him or to make him a king, but he was able to gather crowd quite easily. There was some, you know, some know-how behind that and some understanding behind that. I have a teaching about, you know, the strategies, the thinking and the expansion strategy of Jesus. So all the strategies that he used, very innovative. So I believe that Jesus will be very innovative if he were to be alive today as well.
Okay, so he will use Facebook, he will use Twitter, he will use iPhone 7,
yes,
and many more technology that are available.
I believe so.
Okay.
Now, for Muhammad, I'm glad that Muhammad is not alive today because in his own case, Muhammad also used technology, and he was very creative, he was very talented, and he used technology of his day to spread his message. But he was spreading his message through force and through power, right? Or as against Christ, that was spreading his message through tolerance, through love, and through just sheer good. But Muhammad actually went to war against people that rejected him, and he subjugated them, not just individuals, but he subjugated all nations, all cities. So I'm afraid that if Muhammad were to be alive today, he will get hold of the nuclear weapon. So that's why I'm happy that he's not alive.
Okay, so can you comment on the issue of Europeans using Christianity as a solely as a political tool, that they use Christianity to take a campaign that there was less of the spiritual aspect of Christianity throughout the entire history of European acceptance of Christianity, starting from Emperor Constantine downward to the Crusades and everything that was in. That Europeans mainly used Christianity solely as a political tool, and that it was entirely void of any spirituality, mostly in their cases. So the only people that embrace Christianity and try to see it from the spiritual perspective are the Africans, but the Europeans we are mostly motivated by what they regain, and when Christianity didn't favor them, when they see that it was no longer of use to them, they abandon it entirely currently in Europe, so that we use it solely for political reasons. Can you comment on that?
No, that's not correct. That's not correct at all. If you are talking about the European elite, and if you are talking about one thing you should understand, Innocent, is that even in those olden days, despite the fact that Europe became Christian, but you should remember that happened in the year 300. Now, by the time that Christianity got to the whole of Europe, it took another 700 years. So by the time it got there, it was normal. It was mainly came as a political system, because it was coming from Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. Constantine adopted Christianity as a political system and as a political faith. So because of that, a lot of Europe accepted Christianity more as a political, agreeing with what you are saying, more as a political system or religion rather than a personal encounter. Now, in the meanwhile, there were always people in the background that always had personal encounter with the Lord, in spite of the political elite that used Christianity as a national religion. So when I'm talking about Christianity and Christians, I don't like to refer to those Europeans as Christians. They were Christian nations, but they were not what we would call today as born-again Christians. But they were Christians like religious Christianity. So those Christians that we were talking about, I mean those Europeans that we are talking about that went to now colonize Africa, for example, or that went to now sell slaves, they were not born-again Christians. They were coming from Europe, European Christianity, Europe Christian, but European Christian, but they were not having personal relationship with God. Let me tell you what happened with Africa. This type of Europeans went and conquered nations, but they were simply looking for wealth. They were just greedy, and they were commercial people, merchants. They were greedy commercials, entrepreneurs or businessmen or merchants that were looking for wealth. So all these people came and conquered the nations and then submitted them to their governments. Now, when the real Christians, for example, let's say they conquered and divided Africa, but then when the born-again Christians, the real Christians in their midst, saw that their nations have subjugated other nations, then these same Christians now appealed and wrote letters to their emperors and to their kings and queens and said, allow us, your majesty, to take the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ and the light of the gospel to these nations under your jurisdiction. So the people who went ahead to conquer Africa and other nations were not Christians. They were Christians, but they were more merchants. Okay. It was like 100 years later or 200 years later. In some cases, like in Nigeria, for example, Nigeria had been under the subjection of Britain for 200 years before the missionaries came. Even though these were Europeans, but there were no missionaries among them. Even before then, there were merchants also who were trading in slaves. But missionaries came to Nigeria only 200 years ago. The first ones. But European merchants have been in Nigeria since the 14th century. But they were just there exploiting, trading. They went there like traders, but they were not seeing themselves as the way we see. They were just like normal human beings that you see today. Like normal Europeans that you see today. They were not regenerated. They were not parading themselves as Christians. But when the Christians now came, they called themselves not Europeans, but they called themselves missionaries. Now, then when the missionaries came, missionaries were not the people who conquered Europe, who conquered Africa. No, they came later. When they now came, because of the rights that their nations had there, they got permission. They were now the ones who were not trading. They were the ones who were adopting our languages. And they were the ones who were converting our languages into words, into written letters, into alphabets. They were the ones who were saying, no, these Africans must be educated. They were the ones who were not interested in our gold and our silver and our wealth, but they were the ones who were giving their lives, dying out of malaria, and who are being eaten up by some of our people, cannibal people, or whatever you call them. Yeah, is it cannibal? You call them cannibal? Cannibal people. Yes, they were being eaten up, and they were not dying. They were the ones who, when they died, they would say, "Don't take me back to England. Bury us here." David Livingstone, for example, his heart, when they took him back to England, when he died in England, he said, no, my heart is in Africa. So somebody had to go and they caught his dead body, stole his heart, and took his heart back to bury in Africa. Because these people were people who were ready to give their lives to Africa and to Africans. They were the ones who were building schools. They were the ones who were building hospitals. They were not the merchants, not the people who conquered us, but the missionaries are the ones really who are the friends of Christ. They were the children of Christ, and because they were, they were the real Christians, they presented a better picture of Christianity to Africa, like Mary Slessor, for example, like Ajayi Crowder, and all those kind of people. They were the ones who brought, progress, light, enlightenment, to the African people. Not the Europeans, but the Christians. So I see a difference between Europeans and Christians in that sense.
Okay, good. All right. There is, interestingly enough, there is another aspect of Christianity which I'm about to point out now. I don't know how that would be. The Jehovah's Witness, they have a very special doctrine that they don't believe in hellfire. So they don't believe that hellfire exists. They are not a version of Christianity. And then we also have the instance of, let's say, Islam is at least 1,500 years old now. The Quran, when the Quran was written, the concept of Islam was being introduced to the world. So we have a religion that gave birth to Christianity, which is Judaism. From Judaism, then we have Christianity, which is old, 2,000 years old, and then we have Islam that came later, 500 years after. So, interestingly enough, this version of Christianity, Jehovah's Witness, that they practice, they don't believe in hellfire, they don't believe it does exist. We also find this, that in the Old Testament, that hellfire wasn't mentioned. And also in Judaism, there is no concept of hellfire, because there was this rabbi his name is Friedman. He was giving a lecture in Indaba, somewhere in South Africa. So he was explaining why the concept of hellfire doesn't exist in Judaism, and if it does exist, that the only thing that they have is called The word is Gehinnom that was translated. So this Gehinnom actually means it's a purification process, and he said, according to him, that this concept of hell only lasts for, they take 12 months. It's a purification process that if you're coming into a banquet and you're wearing a white garment that is stained with mud and everything, you have to wash it and wear a proper garment. So the concept of hellfire doesn't exist in Judaism. Likewise, we don't find it in the Old Testament Christian Bible. And now, again, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't subscribe to the concept of hellfire. So, and then we also look back into the history and saw when this concept of hellfire was introduced into Christianity, and it wasn't very long ago through the Roman Catholic Church. So the whole thing, there's this debate about it. So I don't know, what should people think? How should we see this thing now? What is your opinion? This hellfire, the debate surrounding it. Why is it that it's not found in Judaism and it's not found in the Old Testament? No. And the Jehovah's Witnesses is rejecting such concept. What can you say about it?
I know of that argument. If you check, I'm trying to open my Bible now. If you look into Psalm 9, if you have the Bible, you can write it down. Psalm 9, verse 17. Okay. It says, the wicked shall be turned back into hell, even all the nations that forget God. Now, that's from the Old Testament I'm reading.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then, I could look and get many other references for you. I know about that argument very well. I know about that argument. This argument is a big argument, again, in the circle of the Jewish religion. If you go on the internet now and just say, is there hellfire in Judaism? Does Judaism believe in hellfire? You will see a lot of rabbi come, because I've studied Judaism myself, and I've listened to a lot of rabbi. A lot of rabbi know about this position of this famous rabbi, and that rabbi, you know what most rabbis have now decided? They are saying he should say it is his own opinion, but he shouldn't ever talk in the name of Judaism. Go and check out yourself. The most 80% of the Jewish rabbis today in the world, they all came to consensus. They had his speech, and they all said he is wrong. And they had many Talmud and all kind of their references to disprove him that no, that there is hell, concept of hellfire in the Old Testament. And that, the man shouldn't have spoken in the name of Judaism. And that Judaism believes in hell. And I've just given you a scripture right there, for example. So, so the thing is that, yes, that Old Testament talks about hell. There is hell in the Old Testament. There is hell in Judaism. And Jesus, what is more important for us is that Jesus himself spoke about hell. Jesus spoke about hell all the time. Because Jesus was speaking about hell when even in the story of Lazarus and the rich man. Jesus was speaking about hell when he said, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was naked, you didn't clothe me. And he said, put some on the right hand and the left hand side. The ones on the left hand side, take them and throw them in the place of darkness where there will be gnashing of teeth and everything. So hell was not introduced by the Roman Empire at all. Hell was not introduced by the Catholic Church. No. The concept of hell has always been there. It's even in Islam. Now, let's talk about Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witness is not it is universally not recognized as a Christian, bona fide Christian religion as such. It is more seen as a cult in Christianity. But even there, I understand where they're coming from. What they are saying is that the earth was created for the habitation of man. that even though sin has come and has disrupted the plan, that a time is coming, God has promised us to give us a new earth and a new heaven. When the time of the new heaven comes, even though we die now, before that time comes, we go to heaven. But when it's time, God will return us to the new earth. That we are not going to be living in heaven forever or hell, but we will be living in the new heaven that God is going to create. So that is what they mean, that we are not going to be over there, but we are going to be here. That God is going to return both the ones who are righteous and the ones who are not righteous back to the earth.
Okay.
For eternal, life.
All right. So now we see that I watch back most of the argument that most of the rabbi gave to counter this Rabbi Friedman. They argued that the concept of hellfire does actually exist in Judaism, but it's totally different from the concept of hell in Christianity, because Christianity said that you'll be sent to hell and you burn in the fire, furnace of fire, perpetually. But in Judaism, they say that you only stay there for a period of time. It's a process of purification.
There are two different concepts. Those are two different things. Okay. Yes, in Judaism, they have that concept that you are talking about as a temporary, limited place of purification and punishment, but before you are delivered. But it's for different. It's a little bit more complicated. But they also have another place where they are talking about hell, just like in Christianity as well, because Jesus himself was a Jew, so he was talking from that concept of if you look at the New Testament, there were different group of Jews that you see in the New Testament. Some of them were Sadducees, some of them were Pharisees, and some of them were the scribes. You will see that one of the major things that differentiate them from one another is that some of them don't believe that there will be resurrection to eternal life, and some of them do believe that there will be resurrection to life eternal and there will be resurrection to hell. So some of them, even that is a major difference between the people of the old Jews. Some of them don't believe in hell. Some of them don't believe in eternal life, either in hell or in heaven. Some of them did believe in it. Even during the time of Jesus, there were, people like this.
Okay. So we find out that in the Bible,
I believe that there is going to be hell. A lot of Christians also, I know a lot of Christians today who also don't believe in hell. Or a lot of Christians, what do you call them? Humanistic Christians now are humanists, yes. Humanist Christians are saying the good God, if God is so good, he shouldn't God cannot be love and create hell and send people to hell. That is not possible. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, if Jesus, who was in heaven, said it is real, and that he came actually to tell us, to rescue us from hell. And when he died and he gave himself to death on the cross, he was actually saying, please, it was like blocking the road to hell. Like this, blocking the road to hell. Please don't go to hell, with his own life and with his own body. And the Bible also records that after he died, he went to hell actually, and to fight against the spirit of hell that is holding up people there who didn't hear the gospel. And he actually preached the gospel in hell, and to rescue those people or to give them a chance. So if Jesus and God will emphasize hell so much, and there is so much emphasis in the New Testament on hell, that it is not advisable to ignore it. I will not try to ignore it at all.
Okay. The interesting part is that why will God create hell first of all in the first place? Because he is omniscient. He knows the destiny of man before creating him. So why will you create, knowing fully well that yes, you will create a fallible human creature and you know that it will fail? Then after failing, you set a place aside to punish them perpetually. Why will God do such a thing? For what? To achieve what?
Okay. First of all, you have to realize that God didn't create hell for man. Hell was created not with man at heart. God was not thinking of man when he created hell, sorry. God created hell for the devil and the fallen angels who were with him. So hell is a place that is created for Satan, not for people. Now, because man has a choice either to listen to the leading and the lordship of Satan or to the lordship of God. So when man was deceived by Satan and man did listen to Satan, to whomever you listen to that you are subject. Whatever you listen to is your Lord. So when one obeys the leading of pride, selfishness, egocentrism, or what we call satanic temptations, and he decides intentionally with his own will to disregard the voice of God. So there is God that leads you, Jesus, that offers you, say, okay, listen to my voice, you will follow me to heaven. And there is Satan that is saying, listen to my voice, you will follow me to hell. And you have the right to choose, and you know there is an alternative, which is Christ, and you actually follow the one that says he's taking you to hell. It is not a place that was created for man. It was created for Satan, and Satan wants to take with him as many people as possible to his own place. While Jesus wants to take as many people as possible to his own place.
Okay, so what language was Satan's, or Adam and Eve? What language were they speaking in the Garden of Eden? What language did Satan use to speak, to communicate with them? And what language was God using? The angels they were visiting in the Garden of Eden, what language were they speaking from the beginning?
Oh, the same language that they are speaking today. The same language that Satan is using to speak today. Satan has a language today too.
Okay. What is it?
The language he used to speak to Adam and Eve, and the same language he's still using to speak to us. And that's the same language he used to speak to Jesus. You know, Satan also came to Jesus on the mountain when he went for fasting, in the wilderness when he went to fast and pray. And he spoke to him too. And he's still speaking to us the same way. So the same language he spoke in the Garden of Eden is the same language he used to speak to Jesus, and the same language he's using to speak to us today. So what is that language? That is the language of thoughts. So Satan, when we say Satan tempts people, when we say Satan tempts people, we don't mean Satan speaks to come and tempt people. When we say Satan tempted Adam and Eve, we don't mean that Satan came to speak with language and talk like human beings, because Satan is spirit, just like God is spirit. So the same language that God uses to speak is the same language Satan uses to speak. God uses the language of thought to speak to us, and Satan uses the same language of thought to speak to us. That is why it is human thought that will take them to hell, and it is also human thought that will take them to heaven.
Okay. Somebody said, say, how in God's name can the devil and his angels be hurt by literal fire when they are spirit who do not have physical bodies? How can they be hurt by fire? They say the God created hell with them in mind, so how can they be hurt by fire?
Oh yeah, because this is not a physical fire. You know, we can only determine reality by what we know, what exists to us. What our own reality, in our own reality we have fire, right? And fire in our own reality is what we see, is what we have called fire. But hello, yeah, but in the spirit realm, fire also is real. But it's not only fire that is real in the spirit realm. Apart from fire, there are a lot of other things that are real. You know, when we die, we will also be real in heaven. We will also be real when we die. When we die, and it will also be body. We will have physical body, but not physical body, not tangible body like we are saying now, but a superior body that doesn't die. A superior body. So, for example, if you listen to the story of people who have died, they say, I'm seeing myself, I am still here, I'm standing here, and I'm seeing my body. But that body looks so like a dirty, inferior thing compared to the body that I have now. Yes.
Okay. So,
is that a challenge with the internet? Will it be our own internet or his own internet? Huh? Because I'm okay. It seems I'm okay. Hello, are you there? Are you there? Yeah, I think
yes. Yes, I'm
here. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
You're frozen a little bit.
Yes, I hear you now. Can I hear you? It's like you are frozen. I can't hear you.
I think there's a little bit challenge from the internet.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear now?
Yeah, you can talk.
Okay. So the person is like, see, why can't God just forgive Satan and give humanity peace?
Okay. The concept of forgiveness belongs to humans. And the only reason why we have that concept of forgiveness is because somebody paid the price for it. So Jesus came not to die for Satan. Jesus came to die for humans. And why? Because humans are victims of Satan. But Satan was not a victim of anyone. So he's responsible for his own action and for the consequence.
Okay, so why did God create Satan in the first place?
Yeah, he had a purpose for him. And Satan had fulfilled that purpose for many years, for ages, before he saw in himself too much of significance and too much of importance that made him to resent in his faithful service. So he was created to worship, he was created to praise, he was created to serve God, and he did that for many years. So Satan was not created to be evil. Satan was not created to be who we know him to be today. Everything God created was created good, including Satan. When he was created beautiful and nice.
Okay, so does that mean that God never foreseen that that Satan will turn into something monstrous as it is today?
Well, God could have foreseen it, but God is not a dictator. Even we humans that are not as wise as God, that are not as good as God, we don't like dictators. If we, with all our, frailties and fallibilities and weaknesses and limitedness, if we cannot even tolerate dictators, talk less of God.
Okay, they say God created heaven and earth, and He created everything and ended and rested on the seventh day. So, but these 7 days are named after Roman gods. Can you comment on that? Yeah.
The people who are saying that, they are very limited, and that's why I said in my last meeting that don't listen to the Africanism of Afrocentric philosophers of America, and don't listen to Nigerian pastors, and don't believe that that's the church we have in Nigeria. Those two things, you have to be aware of them. Now, people who are talking that, who are saying that the 7 days is named after Roman philosophy or whatever, Roman gods, they are very limited. There was nothing like Roman Empire. Nothing like Roman Empire. When the story and the narration of creation ended. But there was no Roman Empire when there was Old Testament. The Old Testament didn't start. Christianity didn't start with 2,000 years ago with Christ. Christianity started long before Christ. And the narration of creation had been recorded ages before Christianity and before Roman Empire itself. The Roman Empire only existed during the time of Christianity, a few years before then, but 500 years before then. But still, it was only that time. There was no Roman Empire at all on the surface of the earth when this story was narrated. So it cannot be. It's just so those are just some of the things people come up. The only connection people use is that when Christianity was now adopted by the Roman Empire, because of the citizens of Roman Empire at that time, they made Christianity to confine with what they were already used to conform with what they were already used to. Not that they invented it. For example, the government is telling them, okay, no more your pagan worship, no more the god of sun, no more the god of something, no more anything like that. It's now Christianity. So they are looking into the Bible or into the Christianity and seeing how they could keep their old faith alive, and then bring in anything that could be similar in this new faith of Christianity that they have brought to them to hide under it, as to hide their own old religion. So that's the way that combination came. It's not that it was invented. It's just like saying people going to Nigeria now. For example, in my own country, Nigeria, and in my own tribe, my own village, when I was growing up there were no Muslims. Everybody was a Christian. But do you know that we still had our Yoruba idol in my room, although I was a choir member? So even though we were Christians, but we still had a way of going to see Babalawo, and we still had our own God in the family. So it didn't mean that it was me or my family that invented that Christianity. So if somebody comes, they will say, oh, it's the same old, but there used to be Shango before now. Yeah, it is the same Shango now. No, it's just that it came, but my people, because it's now the ruling thing, it's now the reigning thing, they became Christian, but they don't want to get rid of their something, they just mashed it and put it under something. But we still say that, so it didn't mean that we invented it, it just means that we kept our own thing and used Christianity and put it as one, and used one secretly and one as a face.
Okay. The word unicorn as a Greek mythological creature,
yes,
was found being mentioned 9 times in the Bible. It has never existed.
Okay.
It's a Greek mythological creature, some kind of mythology, but it's been mentioned literally in the Bible in the book of Job 39:10 and Deuteronomy.
Jude?
And the book of Job.
Job.
Yeah.
Okay. Job what?
Job 39.
Yes.
Chapter 39, verse 10, and it was also mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy. It's also mentioned in the book of Psalm and the book of Numbers 23, 22, 28.
That is exactly what I'm telling you. It cannot be that it is Roman, do you say Romans or Greek?
A Greek mythological.
Greek mythological something. That is exactly what, this is the same argument. For example, the book of Job is the oldest book that has ever been written. This is before Greece, before the ancient Greeks, before Roman. So this is just what people come up with. This is long before. Actually, Job was written before Egypt and before the sojourn of Israel in Egypt. So this is a long something. So it's just, people bring similarity, and they now, because of what they are familiar with, they're now using this as an argument that is where that came from. But that is, it doesn't have any archaeological proof to it.
Okay, how can that be? Because the Egyptian civilization dated back almost 10,000. We have a 10,000 years civilization, and the Bible, it's 6,000 years according to the calculation they did to the period of all this writing. So how could that be?
Yeah, people talk about 6,000 years, but 6,000 years for me, that is just the history of the Jewish people. That is recorded history of the Jewish people. But before the Jewish people, there were civilizations, right? But that doesn't mean that God of the Bible existed only existing only 6,000 years. I know most Christians believe that, and that most Christians subscribe to the fact that the earth is only existing for 6,000 years. I don't.
Okay.
I believe that God has been there for millions of years, and the earth and the universe is much more older than 6,000 years. Now, a lot of Christians will say this is wrong, that, I don't even think that, let me tell you something. I don't even think that the account of creation we're seeing there is the beginning of the whole of all of creation. I think that account of creation that we are seeing in Genesis chapter 1 is the account of the realm that we are in right now. I think that before this realm, which is the earth realm, planet, that there is real life where God lived, where the angels lived, and that was billions of years or trillions of years before he now decided to give the account of the creation of the earth that we are saying in Genesis.
Okay. So somebody is asking, is saying, why do we conveniently refer to God as he and not she, or probably it?
Because men and women on the earth are only limited to certain phrases and to certain expressions, in linguistic expressions. So I think that if there had been better linguistic expression that is possible to man to use for beings that are extra human, then we could have come up with it. But because there is no linguistic expression like that, I think the writers of the Bible just picked one, because that time it was the men's word, and men were doing everything. Women were just giving recognitions recently.
Okay. So is it safe to refer to God as she also?
I think God is more than he or she. Yes, God is more than he or she.
Okay, this is coming from Science Daily Journal. It's sourced from University of Kansas. It's a new research shows that some 12,800 years ago, an astonishing 10% of the Earth's land surface, or about 10 million square kilometers, was consumed by fire, wildfire. And so this thing is actually published by the papers. 28 authors include KU Emeritus Professor of Physics and Astronomy, Adrian Melott, a professor, and Professor Brian Thomas, 2005 doctorate graduate from the KU University. So that's there's 12,800 years ago, almost 10 million square kilometers of Earth was consumed by wildfire. So that this is also close to the period of the Ice Age, that the world. So we were in Ice Age, and all of a sudden an outbreak of liquid fire, wildfire, that burned almost this percent of Earth. So is this also part of God's plan, or what is it? That I don't understand.
The way I understand that is a bit different.
Okay.
The Bible talks about Ice Age, what science would refer to as Ice Age. The Bible talks about the time of what was his name now? It just escaped me. I wrote about him in my book, in one of my articles. I wrote an article about it. When the earth was divided. So there is a record in the Bible when the earth was divided. Maybe I could actually try to find it. And that time, when what happens is that, what I think, according from what I read in the Bible, I could picture that the whole earth used to be at a point one large piece one large piece of the earth, just one piece of the earth. It used to be one single continent, one mainland. And I think what happened is, so at a particular time when this thing happened, there was a shift and a movement of the earth that led to the earth dividing up. And when that happened, you know, because of the energy and the liquid and the what do you call it, the temperature of the earth, under the earth, I think what happened was that was the time when Asia divided away from Africa, America divided away and all that. I think that was when that incident of fire was recorded. And that is the understanding that I will have about it. I'm trying to look at the place here in the Bible. If I don't see it now, I will get it ready for. I didn't know I'm going to have a question like that. I'll get it ready for next time, but I'm going to try to look for it. Nobody read this my article or what? But it was quite a long time ago when I wrote it. So that's what I believe. I believe that this was recorded in the Bible, but it's not a popularly known story. People don't even talk about it. But I think that will be what we are talking about. Yeah, go ahead and maybe you can ask another question if you are ready.
Okay. The next question is: since 70% of Europeans have abandoned Christianity, are they all going to hell, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I think God sees the heart of men. And because God sees the heart of men, some of them might be having personal relationship with God in their own way that we don't know. So, you know, I don't think everyone will go to hell. I think only the ones that consciously reject the Lord Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior will be going to hell.
But they did reject Jesus Christ. They do not subscribe to Christianity. Most especially the young generation, the European young generation are growing constantly and do not subscribe to the Christian. They reject it outrightly.
What I think about that is that what they have rejected is probably the Christian religion. Oh God, I saw it. So let me give you the passage I was looking for. It's in Genesis chapter 10.
Okay.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 25. It was giving us the history of the earth and the geology of creation. So in this place, we see that in Genesis chapter 10, verse 25, it talks about, and unto Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg. Peleg, remember that name, Peleg.
Peleg.
Yeah, P-E-L-E-G. So who is Peleg? For in his days was the earth divided.
Okay.
For in his days the earth was divided. Which means that the earth used to be one lump of land, earth. So it is in that process that you will see fire, you know, everywhere.
Okay. This is actually interesting because it leads right straight to the next question that says Adam and Eve gave birth to Cain and Abel, and then they went and married. There was no account of other females around in the wilderness. So who did they marry? Cain and Abel. The record was that they went on to marry, that he knew his wife, and then they had sons. They had children. But so who are those people from the part of the world? And then we also have Cain, who was being caused by God to wander in the land of Nod. So is actually the next question. So who are those people that we don't have the record of them in the Bible? Who are those women? Where are they from? Because Adam didn't have any female children.
That's not true.
Okay.
That account is not true. And that is what most people use against Christianity. But a lot of these people, they don't know the Bible thoroughly enough. And I'm going to let us go into the Bible. Let's go into the Bible, into the book of Genesis.
Genesis what?
Verses 1 to 8.
Okay.
Verses 1 to 8.
Okay.
It says, this is the book of the generations of Adam. So it's telling us the story of Adam and the earth and how the earth became populated through Adam, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created, and Adam lived 130 years. So Adam lived 100, not 30 years, not 100 years, not 70 years, 130 years.
Okay.
It's okay. He lived 130 years and begat a son.
Okay.
In his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. So Adam and Eve gave birth to a son. And the name of this son, what?
No, I actually thought Seth was the third.
Yes, was the third.
Okay.
This was after. This is chapter 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm writing chapter 5. This is after. I'm just trying to say that you spoke about, what was his name? Abel and Cain, and that Cain was sent away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to say that after Cain, they gave birth to another son, which is Seth, right?
Seth.
Okay. Now let's continue. That's not the end of the story. And the days of Adam, after he begat Seth, were 800 years. All right? And he begat sons and daughters. So we don't think that Adam and Eve, we thought that Adam and Eve only gave birth to Abel and Cain and then Seth. But there is a place here where he says, and he begat sons. That is verse 4. That is Genesis 5, verse 4.
Okay.
He begat sons and daughters. So, because they are living like 800 years, 500 years, 700 years, almost 1,000 years, it's 800 years, 500, 700. They are living for so long. Can you imagine? Because he has many sons and daughters, they couldn't regenerate from other people. They regenerated from their different brothers and sisters. That's how they populated the earth. So the story that people who don't know the Bible narrate is that he only had those 3 sons. But they don't see that little phrase, because the Bible is not talking too much on, like a history book. Just phrases. But the fact that he begat or he gave birth to sons and daughters, most people mostly disregard that or don't notice that, leave that out. And because they don't pay attention to that, they seem to now be saying, okay, so how can 3 sons give birth to where they are their wives? No, he had daughters as well.
Okay. Well, I think maybe the debate comes from the angle that before the issue of Seth came into the picture, it was mentioned earlier on before chapter 5 that it went on, like Cain was caused to wander in the land of Nod, and it was said that whosoever laid eyes on him we kill him or something like
Yes.
that. We see the blood of so.
Yeah.
So
You know the reason why? Because they were having many other sons and daughters, and because they were going to be spreading, and they had chased him away. They will not know him. They will not recognize him away anymore because he had left. He has been chased away from the home, and anybody that sees him, either from the grandson or grandchildren, that could happen. So I don't see any problem in that.
okay, somebody is asking a very interesting question here. You see, this one is about Nigeria. You say Fela Anikbola Kuti is loved and admired greatly by Nigerians and around the world. He's friend to Kwame Nkrumah, who is an Afrocentrist, and Nnamdi Azikiwe, who is a Pan-Africanist, but himself also that Fela is an animist who criticized Christianity and Eurocentrism. Do you think he is in hell?
It's very good. I cannot judge categorically and say he's in hell. If he's going to be in hell, it will be God's decision. And if he's going to be in heaven, it will also be God's decision. I think Fela was an African hero, a Nigerian great monumental whatever you call it.
Monumental figure.
Monumental figure. So I think that what nobody really knows what happened to him the last days of his life. Maybe he had a personal relationship with God that nobody knows. So it's going to be presumptuous of me to say he's either in heaven or hell. But I know one thing, there is hell to be rejected and there is heaven to gain.
Okay. I think the entire contention is, this person is trying to point out is seeing how greatly Fela had influenced the entire country, even though he happens to be an animist, is what is the bone of contention here, because we see how active he was fighting for humanity. So, and this other one say why does the God of the Bible have emotions? That he get angry, he regret, he's vengeful, full of vendetta. Why does he have emotions like humans?
When we describe or when we read God's description or the description of his actions or of his emotions, we can only describe all that by what we know and by how limited we are. For example, if we look at colors today, colors, you can only identify the colors that you know. But people who have seen the vision of heaven will tell you that there are more varieties of colors that they are not even familiar with on the earth. And so what will you call them? You just call them the closest. Something that is closest to yellow, you just say yellow, but it's different, but yellow. Something that is close to green, you just say green, but even though there are no other color like that, but it used to be that there used to be just about 7 main colors, like even a few years ago, or like, you know, but now recently more colors are coming out every day. So, but everything was just yellow, black, brown, red, black before. But now you have all kind of, you know, colors, descriptions that people talk about now. So when we read those descriptions of God in the Bible, that is the best that could communicate to us for us to understand what was happening or what God was doing. It's so those things are more languages or words for us to have a picture or to be able to identify in our own language, in our own human nature, with what was going on with God.
Okay. Thank you so much for the time accorded. I hope our audience, we are blessed and with the knowledge we have answered almost 20-something questions already, which is really, really fast. So I hope you understand. We have a lot of the list of the questions, so you go ahead and drop your questions. I realize that many people see this program as very important because they have questions and they are not able to research personally on their own in the Bible to understand. And when they ask their pastors in the church, they are being encouraged to pray in closets. Maybe God will send them some revelation, and most of them end up frustrated with the whole idea because they need to be taught. They need knowledge. Literally, so knowledge don't fall from the sky and just come into your brain. If that's how it works, it will be much more easier. So many people find this really, really interesting and really, really enlightening. So thank you so much for the time accorded. I'll let you now. I see that we have exhausted an hour and 30 minutes, though we started late. So the next question is actually interesting.
Thank you so much. And we can do it next Sunday.
All right, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.